Now, over the weekend, President Donald Trump showed his unabashed racism in a series of Twitter attacks against fellow American citizens and Congresswomen, who include Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley. Those four together are known as the Squad. Now, these are progressive women, women of color, and they're also in their first term, and they've been speaking out against Trump's disastrous immigration policies, going to the border facilities, as AOC had, and really trying to help this, these migrants, to help these people that are in these terrible conditions. And they've been using their power to speak out. So now, Trump, he don't like that because when it's exposed that his administration is basically putting these people in disastrous, horrifying conditions for the sake of putting them in horrible conditions. Again, their reasoning is, well, it's a deterrent. We're doing this so that they can this policy, the zero tolerance policy, so we can deter people from coming over the border, so that they can stay home and probably get killed, because we don't care about them. So you stay home and die, or you come here and we're going to lock you up and treat you horribly, like you're subhuman garbage. That's what we're going to do. So now, when you point out how this is a racist policy, Trump gets a little bit triggered, and he goes on Twitter. He says this: "So interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe. The worst, most corrupt and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came, then come back and show us how it's done? These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements." So that's his tweet storm. Gee, I wonder where he got the idea to tell these four women to go back to their home countries. I mean, you wouldn't tell a white person to do that, which is funny because there are plenty of white immigrants, but they never do that. It's always, of course, she's AOC, is a Latina. You have Ilhan Omar, who, yes, she is an immigrant. She was born in another country, but she is also a U.S. citizen. She's a black Somali woman. I wonder where he got that idea to tell people to, quote unquote, go home, right? It's almost as if the president might be a racist and thinks that, well, hey, Land, if you look if you're not white, or in my case, orange, well, then you can't possibly be American. No, go back to where you came from. 3 out of those 4 women were born in the United States. Ocasio-Cortez, born in the Bronx. Rashida Tlaib, born and represents Detroit. Holla, Detroit. Presley was born in Cincinnati, raised in Chicago, and now lives in and represents Boston, Massachusetts. Omar, as I said, they fled Somalia when she was a child. They received asylum in the U.S., and she became a citizen in the year 2000 and now represents the state of the city of Minneapolis in Minnesota. Now, it's ironic. I'm sorry, she doesn't represent the city of Minneapolis. No, she represents Minnesota. I don't know why I said that. Okay, but it's ironic that Trump says, oh no, you should go back to where they came from, go back and fix their corrupt, completely inept, barely functional government. Well, you just explained your own administration. And yes, I have another correction. Yes, now I know why. She does represent both. I don't know why I thought. Whatever. I'm just making all sorts of mistakes today. But as messed up as I've been, I hold no candle to the administration under Donald Trump, which is a complete and utter inept disaster. Now, besides the hilarious projection and irony, you also have this massive racist, xenophobic attack against 4 women of color and congresswomen. So now what happened? The backlash was swift. Elizabeth Warren, she said this, and she's, of course, running for president in 2020. Let's be clear about what this vile comment is: a racist and xenophobic attack on the Democratic Congresswomen. This is their country. Regardless of whether or not Trump realizes it, they should be treated with respect. As president, I'll make sure of it. Okay, I don't know how that you will do that, Elizabeth Warren, but I appreciate the sentiment. And that goes with every presidential candidate. How are you going to, make sure that these people are treated with respect by people who are on the, conservative side that despise her? And they do so completely on racist, because they're racist. I don't know how you can really do that. And then again, look, the fish rots from the head down. But those people, they're always going to exist in this country. And I guess you can make sure that their voices are not elevated, which they have been under the Trump administration. But anyway, now I have another person you might be aware of. And this is actually a former Republican, Justin Amash. Now, he was a Republican. He decided to quit the Republican Party. He is now an independent, and he said this, quote, "To tell these American citizens, most of whom were born here, to go back to the crime-infested places from which they came is racist and disgusting." Why is it that Justin Amash, somebody that I disagree with on a lot of policy positions, is one of the only people on the conservative side that is actually speaking out against this? I mean, and look, not the only person, of course, right? Funny enough, Geraldo Rivera, right? Now, Geraldo Rivera, he's like, "You are better than this, Donald Trump." No, he's not. He's not better than this. That's who Donald Trump is. And so, I tweeted back to Geraldo, which is a funny sentence to say, that no, he knows, like, that you should know by now that this is who Donald Trump really, really is. He is this guy, and he is a reflection of the Republican base, the Republican Party. And so, if you're a Republican, you don't realize that. Look, you must be super, super ignorant. If you're a Republican and you do realize that, and you're still a Republican, well, then you tacitly approve of this kind of stuff. Now, Representative Pramila Jayapal also weighed in. She said, "Donald Trump, you can only hope to be as patriotic as we are. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, we're born in America. Ilhan Omar and I are proud naturalized citizens, making sure America keeps to our ideals. You are an expert at racism and xenophobia." There you go. Now, that's the overall point here, right? See, Donald Trump only sees color. He has old school, preconceived notions about race, the stereotypes. His stereotype, in his mind, black people have to be either lazy or criminal. They're on welfare. The Muslims are terrorists, unless, of course, there are friends in Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, people who, by the way, literally support terrorism. So I guess, like, he only sees Muslims as terrorists, yet he's friends with people who support terrorism in the form of Mohammed bin Salman. So that's kind of ironic / oops. But also he believes, like, Mexicans, obviously, are coming to the border with, drugs, and they're there to steal our welfare. That is the fact-free, nuance-free world that Donald Trump lives in. And unfortunately, a lot of his base lives in that same fact-free world. They don't see that people are, obviously, that these stereotypes are incorrect and just absolutely wrong. But no, in his world, every racist stereotype is true. Not only that, but every anti-Semitic stereotype also true. You guys remember when he was talking to a group of Jewish Republicans, he said this, quote, "Is there anyone in this room who doesn't negotiate deals? Probably more than any room I've ever spoken." What is that supposed to mean? Well, it plays to the old anti-Semitic tropes where Jewish people obviously are money grubbing, right? And money grubbing misers are really good at negotiation. No, that is a racist, anti-Semitic stereotype, but that's the world that he lives in. Deeply, deeply racist person. And he believed, thanks to his stereotypes, right? He believes in that he tried to make sure that black people couldn't have rooms in Trump Tower. Well, no black person could afford to live in Trump Tower. So I don't care who you are. I don't care that your record is immaculate, that you have a great job. No, you're a black person. There's no way you could afford to live here. And if you are, then you must be scamming somebody. I mean, how much more do we have to point out? Donald Trump is a complete racist. Now, how did the squad respond, right? This is really important. Now, Rashida Tlaib on Twitter said, want a response to a lawless and complete failure of a president? She's not mincing words here. He is the crisis. His dangerous ideology is the crisis. He needs to be impeached. So basically, in other words, impeach the MFer. AOC responded, Mr. President, the country I come from is a country we all swear to, is the United States. But given how you've destroyed our border with inhumane camps, all at a benefit to you and the corporations who profit off them, glad she mentions that, you are absolutely right about the corruption laid at your feet. Ayanna Presley responded by saying, this is what racism looks like. We are what democracy looks like. And we are not going anywhere except back to D.C. to fight for the families you marginalize and vilify every day. And Ilhan Omar finally says, Mr. President, as members of Congress, the only country we swear an oath to is the United States, which is why we're fighting to protect it from the worst, most corrupt and inept president we have ever seen. Oh, I love taking his words and turning them back right on him. So now, one more here. This is from Nancy Pelosi. Now, the reason that I mention her is because she has been attacking the squad, right? She has been deriding them. She went to the New York Times and did an interview with Maureen Dowd and talked about how they have absolutely no influence. Oh, it's only 4 people. Oh, and they live in this social media, whatever. And as you're going to see, of course, some of the subsequent attacks are based on that. So Nancy Pelosi gets special recognition for basically opening up these attacks against AOC. Now, I want to give you her statement anyway. She says, when Donald Trump tells 4 American Congresswomen to go back to their countries, he reaffirms his plan to make America great again, has always been about making America white again. Now, that's a true statement. And so that's why it's important, right? She literally did tell the truth there. She also adds, our diversity is our strength and our unity is our power. So now, the reason I've got a problem with this, because like the statement itself is completely true. I agree with it 100%. Oh, but Nancy Pelosi, that's the problem here. You see, Nancy Pelosi is the epitome of the white liberal feminist who is not intersectional. She is not an intersectional feminist. I don't believe she's a racist person, but here's the thing. She loves diversity in her caucus, except when they try to actually do things. And this is not, oh, Nancy Pelosi is a white woman and she's racist against, these 4 women of color. No, that's not the issue here. This is a power thing, right? It's the establishment, it's the old guard versus progressives. And that's what it is. It's against change. Again, her caucus, her party loves people of color, right? As long as they don't actually try to change anything. Like Kamala Harris loves Kamala Harris. Loves the Congressional Black Caucus. But if you're a member of the squad, if you're a progressive and you're fighting for real change, well, then that's when Nancy Pelosi does not like you. That's when she's not so good about diversity, at least when it comes to diversity of ideas. But again, she set up this attack. Donald Trump also backed her, by the way. This is, when this, because I've been talking about this feud that they've been having going back and forth. Again, progressives versus everyone else versus the establishment, Nancy Pelosi versus the squad. Here's what Donald Trump said about this. Quote, I think Cortez is being very disrespectful to someone who's been there a long time. I deal with Nancy Pelosi a lot, and we go back and forth, and it's fine. But I think that a group of people is being very disrespectful to her. You know what? I don't think Nancy can let that go on. Ocasio-Cortez should treat Nancy Pelosi with respect. You know why Donald Trump defends Nancy Pelosi? It's not because he likes her. No. It's because she's the assistance. He gets, what he wants when he deals with Nancy Pelosi. And what does she do in response? Again, this man has broken laws, right? This man has done criminal obstruction into his, administration, right? And into the investigation into his administration. What does Nancy Pelosi do? She puts out a strongly worded letter. I mean, Donald Trump got a blank check from Nancy Pelosi. $4.6 billion to do whatever they want in the border without any sort of protections for migrant children who are being treated terribly in these camps. What did he do with that money? I think he opened up 3 brand new detention facilities that were formerly prisons, where there were even prison riots because of the conditions were so bad. The Department of Justice doesn't even use those areas anymore. And now, oh look, migrants get to go in there. No oversight, no protections. Nancy Pelosi says, I don't care. We're going to give Trump whatever he wants. But afterwards, we're going to release a very strongly worded letter. What is that going to do? What is that going to do, Nancy? You refuse to hold him accountable. You refuse to impeach the president. Leadership? That's not leadership. No, that's the assistance. You are helping Donald Trump. Whereas, of course, AOC and the rest of the squad, those women are the real resistance. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.